Welcome back. The Senate has passed for the second reading a bill seeking to repeal the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency Act and reenact it as the National Primary Healthcare Development Bill 2025. The bill is expected to establish a stronger legal and institutional framework for accessible and quality primary health services for Nigerians. Lawmaker also passed the Informal Sector Employment Regulation Bill 2025 for third reading, marking a major legislative move to formalize and safeguard millions of domestic workers, interns, apprentices, and other informal sector employees across the country. Our National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim brings us more details from Wednesday's plenary.
69, 1070.
Lawmakers settle down for the commencement of the day's business. As they wrap up preliminaries, Majority Leader of the Senate, Okpeyemi Bamidele, ahead of the commencement of the day's business, dismissed reports of an alleged attempt to remove the President of the Senate, describing the report as misleading.
There was in fact no discussion around the possibility or otherwise of the removal of His Excellency Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio.
As deliberations progressed, a bill seeking to scrap and replace the Primary Healthcare Development Agency Act scaled second reading in the red chambers. The bill, sponsored by Ogun West lawmaker Adeola Solomon, aims to overhaul the country's primary healthcare system.
The current law neither captured the new realities of the universal health coverage and digital health integration, nor the community health insurance. The bill proposed has been designed and structured to ensure that all these gaps are addressed substantially. So this bill calls our attention to the fact that health, Mr. President, is well.
The Senate subsequently referred the bill to the Committee on Primary Healthcare and Communicable Diseases for further legislative action. Lawmakers during Wednesday's deliberations also passed the Informal Sector Employment Regulations Bill 2025 for third reading. The bill, which passed after its report was presented by the Committee on Employment, Labor and Productivity, is a consolidation of two proposals sponsored by Jigawa Northwest lawmaker Hussaini Babangida Uba and Sani Musa, representing Niger East.
Having thoroughly considered the bill, hereby recommends that the Senate do consider and pass the Informal Sector Employment Regulation Bill 2025 as amended.
The philosophical cornerstone behind this bill is to regulate the employment and conditions of service of domestic workers, which hitherto has been left unregulated.
The legislation establishes a legal framework for employment standards, workplace protection, and the formalization of informal labor markets. The bill now awaits concurrence by the House of Representatives before transmission to the President for assent. From the National Assembly, Abuja, for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Nigeria has been listed among the world's hunger hotspots in a joint UN report by the Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Programme, according to the report released by two food agencies of the United Nations. They warned that millions of people could face famine as funding shortages worsen already dire humanitarian conditions around the world.
In a joint report released on Wednesday, the Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Programme said that the conflict and violence were driving acute food insecurity in most of the high-risk defined countries. The agencies listed Haiti, Mali, Palestine, South Sudan, Sudan, and Yemen as the worst affected nations where populations face an imminent risk of catastrophic hunger. The report revealed that funding for humanitarian relief efforts was falling dangerously short, with only $10.5 billion received out of the $29 billion required to assist those most at risk. Now, joining us to x-ray what this report means for Nigeria is public affairs analyst Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Obiaraeri, we don't seem to be able to hear you, but I'll just go on with my first question. I want to ask what the implication of this is. The report we got recently was that the price of food is starting to come down. How do we balance that report that we're hearing about the prices of things starting to come down vis-a-vis Nigeria being marked as a country of high concern and, what this report means for us?
Okay, yes, compared to last year, the price of food is relatively down. And of course, we know it's a seasonal thing. This is the time for harvest for most of the farmers who did rain-fed farming. And we know that we have not yet solved the problems that have always been there. It's already known that Nigeria is one country that loses over 3.5 trillion naira worth of its food production to post-harvest losses because of poor storage facilities, because of paucity of refrigerated articulated vehicles that can be used to move items from one corner of Nigeria to the other. Nigeria has a vast land mass of about 923,000 square kilometers. And a lot of other problems that we've identified that we have not yet taken any concerted effort, both at the federal, local government, and the state levels to solve. This is just one part of the news, the FAO news. The other second part, you also saw the World Bank report that stated clear that only 44% of the palliatives or so-called poverty cash rollouts that were meant for the poor households in Nigeria were efficient or actually got to them, either because of inefficiencies, corruption, or other factors that have been identified. I am not surprised because I live in Nigeria, I work in Nigeria, I have many Nigerians under employment in different sectors of the economy, and we clearly see day to day what happened around. Yes, food inflation might have marginally trended down because of what I identified here as seasonal fluctuations, but the question is how sustainable has it been? And again, the purchasing power of the average Nigerian. If, for example, XYZ for food commodity came down by, say, 10-12%, and the purchasing power of the average Nigerian had been eroded by almost 80%, how do you cover the gap? And of course, it's not just enough to identify this. We have, at different times and for profound solutions, credible, sustainable, practicable solutions on what we can do as a country to stem this tide. Today, we have 8.1 million Nigerians in IDP camp. Today, we have 330,000 Nigerians that are living in refugee camps across the West African space, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. These 8.1 million Nigerians are mostly people from the food belt of the country, uprooted from their homes, uprooted from their communities, taken out from the ecosystem that will have actually contributed actively in providing food for Nigeria. And we have not done anything. We are not yet doing anything to stem the tide. Donald Trump the other day just asked the Nigerian government to take our time to stop the killing, which is at the root cause of the problems we have, the insecurity. Rather holistically acknowledge the situation, irrespective of how it was shaped, and beg the Americans to partner with them to tackle it. All we are busy doing is trying to gaslight, recriminate, and then trying to draw equivalence of who is being killed or who is not being killed, and which is not the way to go. Today in Nigeria, we know what to do to curb the insecurity within a period of 6 months. We know what to do to stem the food, to reduce the poverty level in Nigeria from the current 197 million out of 220 to less than 1 million if we are very, very serious as a people. And that is why we have always said it's not just enough for the UN, the World Bank, the FAO to reel out what we know. We must take practical steps as a people, as a government, to address this situation. Insecurity does not even need America to come in to solve. If those who purport to govern us are the three buckets of leadership, three tiers and levels of leadership and arms of leadership, understand truly that the one single obligation of any government in any place in any society is protection of lives and properties, without which that government does not, is not fit to be in power. They will have done better. Dauda Lawal, the governor of Zamfara State, stated it clearly. It's on record that if he had control of the army and the state apparatus to tackle insecurity, that he would have done it in 2 months. In 2 months, he knows where the bandits are, they know where they are hiding, and they can destroy and fish them out in 2 months. That was a very revealing statement. And it's almost going to 1.5 years since he made that revelation. Up till now, nothing had been done by those in Abuja, even those at the state and regional level, even the international institutions, to work together to tackle it. And that is where the problem is.
All right. Let's invite Mr. Emmanuel Nnaemeka, who is here with us. He's the Executive Director, Civil Society Center for Humanitarian and Development Affairs. Thank you for joining this conversation. We'd like you to tie in quickly with your thoughts and let us know what you really think about this latest development. I mean, if we look at names like Mali, Haiti, Palestine, South Sudan, Yemen as worst affected nations, and here you have Nigeria. What's your take on this?
Morning, and thank you for having me. I think the situation we find ourselves as a country is very clear. Unfortunately, we're in a season or a period where the entire globe is currently exacerbated with all manners of humanitarian challenges. I mean, from the report, you can see clearly that the field, is spread wide. We're no longer talking about just Syria, Afghanistan, and Nigeria, and probably Djibouti, the Horn of Africa, which has always been in the news. We're now talking about much more. The numbers have increased. You're talking about Gaza in Palestine. You are talking about several other countries. So when you look critically, you will see why the executive director of WFP, World Food Program, and of course the FAO, who their sister organizations, began to raise the alarm. And I mean, if they have from the budget 29 billion that is meant to support humanitarian aid, food assistance to the most vulnerable across the globe, which Nigeria is also a part of. And they've only been able to raise $10 billion out of the 29 billion. You will clearly know that there will be what you call prioritization. And that prioritization, which in our own, we can call scale of preference, is that Gaza comes first because their own level of humanitarian need is higher than that of Nigeria. I mean, you look at other countries, look at Sudan. Sudan is a war-torn country. Nigeria is currently not necessarily war-torn, but of course we have our challenges, just like my brother who spoke before me, clearly enumerated. So the challenges are there. But the peculiarity with Nigeria is to the extent that, yes, 8.1 million IDPs, both direct and indirect, displaced people who are currently food insufficient and who also need all manners of humanitarian aid. We're also talking about over 135 million Nigerians who are currently multidimensionally poor. So it's not something you look at in isolation. Without going back to what the last speaker talked about, we all know clearly what the issues are. Benue State for the last 10 years have suffered heavily, and Benue State is a food basket, one of the major food baskets of the country. So you look at Benue, Nasarawa, you look at Kebbi, you look at Zamfara. These are major food belts. You look at Taraba, for example. I mean, so these are major food belts of the country. And unfortunately, we have a lot of smallholder farmers in these regions, and they've not been able to farm or cultivate their farms. Even when they try, the output is usually very minimal because of insecurity. So I think the major thing first is to increase our advocacy with the multilateral organizations to ensure that the support we get will focus more on the smallholder farmers who have always aided, food support for their various communities. And because of that, in banditry and insecurity, a lot of these farmers have migrated. That's actually where the major challenge is right now. There's been serious rural urban migration in Nigeria. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Mr. Nnaemeka. I'd like to come back to Dr. Obiaraeri. Multiple factors responsible for why we find ourselves here. Dr. Obiaraeri, in your opening statement, you did mention quite a number of reasons why we're here, and you also spoke to the economic perspective of low purchasing power of the people. They say history is very important in order to know where you're coming from, so you know where you're going to. How did we find ourselves here in the first place? Nigeria is a nation that is blessed with the arable land. They say you don't even need fertilizer to plant in so many areas, and we have quite a huge landmark. So how did we find ourselves here in the first place? And is there hope? Can we change the situation? And yes.
It's very, very clear and known. Before the emergence of the Buhari government in 2015, we had insecurity in the northeast of Nigeria and part of the Middle Belt. And of course, before Jonathan exited, he, working with the chief army staff then, General Yejidika, were actually on the verge of decimating Boko Haram. They were practically on it. It was alleged that they brought in missionaries from South Africa and other places, and they were concentrated on doing it. And of course, Kawu Baraje, the former APC chieftain, said it gleefully before the whole world that most of the militia and bandits that came into Nigeria were imported from other parts of the Sahel by those in APC to checkmate Jonathan, because they were thinking that maybe he will not hand over power. And of course, Jonathan considered the election, and the rest is history. Since that time till now, Nigeria had not known peace. The insecurity had not just only exacerbated in the northeast, it has actually moved to the northwest and the southeast, another part of Nigeria that used to be very safe and secured zones. And interestingly, what governments after government at all levels have been doing is to play politics. I read the other day in Borno State, over 6 billion naira was used to rehabilitate the poor, the repentant criminals and rapists and murderers. You ask yourself this question: how much did they apply to rehabilitate the 8.1 million in IDP camps? You saw the other day, everywhere you go, you tune in, you will see governors hosting peace palace with bandits, with criminals, rolling, decked in with sophisticated weapons, rapid propelled grenades, mingling with the military and the police. How do you solve insecurity in such an atmosphere where bandits can come out openly in public? It's not as if the north or other parts of Nigeria is so huge or is so densely or thickly forested like Vietnam or other parts of the world. If we want to sort out this problem, we know what to do. We know where we started fighting us. We have said it here. The current security architecture of Nigeria, as currently structured, is not working and can never work. Under Buhari, we wasted 12 trillion naira, which is about $25 billion converted in dollar, and $1 billion that they used to import the Tucanos and everything, that we have not yet seen their efficiency. $27 billion wasted on insecurity, and yet it festers.
Mr. Obiaraeri, I want to push back, a little on what you're saying. You're talking about what failed during President Buhari's tenure. Now we're looking at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We are facing an insecurity challenge.
I am coming. The current Tinubu government is an extension of Buhari. It's not APC. I said over the last 10 years. I'm coming. And it has even worsened under the current situation. Because if you look at NBS report in 2024, which is a record under the Tinubu's government, you will see clearly 600,000 Nigerians were murdered in 1 year. 2.2 million Nigerians kidnapped. 2.2 trillion naira ransom paid, and we are still not found solutions on how to tackle this bad. We are still doing amnesty to them. We are still rolling out packages. The other day, it was one other state like that gave them 2 billion. What we will do? The first state governor provided solutions to this, and which is what we have always advocated. Hand over security to the communities, to the local government areas, to the regions. And how do we do it? We know that the lowest hanging fruit is agriculture. The north has over 60 million hectares of arable land mass. In the southwest, we have almost about 19 million hectares. In the northeast, southeast, we have, which is the smallest landmass, we have over 2.8 million hectares of landmass. What we would do is very simple. If to the federal government of Nigeria and the state governments and the local government decide to do the right and honorable thing, they've been borrowing every month 1 trillion, 2.3 billion, everything they've been borrowing without any result to show for it. What we want them to do is very simple. If they borrow $15 billion today, $15 billion for agro clusters and $6 billion for security diversification, I'll tell you what they will do. Create 2,500 agro-industrial parks, 1,000 to 2,000 hectares each. It will take $6 million to establish these agro-industrial parks that will provide all the infrastructure, all the mechanized arrangements, all the technology, and everything to drive it. $3.7 billion will help us set up 100 agro rangers in each of the wards, which will provide at least 4 to 1,000 agro rangers for each agro cluster. We will equip them with AK-47 in every local government area under the same agro rangers control, under the National Security Advisor and the state coordinator appointed by the governor and the federal government of Nigeria. We will have 4 armored personnel carriers produced by Innocent and Nod in every local government area. We will have drones in all the electoral wards. We have Tenkoso dogs. We will have motorized and motorbiked agro rangers, fully equipped and fully trained. Let me tell you what will happen. If you have these people fully remunerated, $1.6 billion annually, that is what we do. We have done the numbers, a 400-page document on how we can tackle it. Let me tell you what will happen. Security is indigenous. If it's Zamfara State where you have 13 local government areas, you have these agro rangers manning 4 armored personnel carriers in each of these local government areas, and they have the requisite equipment. With the governor of the state, who is very passionate about securing his state, and the state coordinator championing it, I tell you of a truth, and I kid you not, in 6 months, we don't need American boots or anything on ground. You will look for these bandits, ISWAP, Boko Haram, or non-governments. You will look for them anywhere, you will not see them. It will take us $21 billion to do this. And I will tell you, from each of these agro parks, we will be generating nothing less than $42 million every year. That is over $190 to $200 billion, not only revenue brought into this country. And over 20 million jobs created, jobs that pays nothing less than $300,000 every month. We will have over 10 million agripreneur millionaires created. And that is the truth, and that is the only way to go. Okay. We are not the only country. You know, it's so shameful that we are being classified alongside Yemen, alongside Somalia. There is no excuse. United Nations has $29 billion which they provided for intervention. We don't need the 29 billion. We can actually donate that money to United Nations to tackle other countries if we are very sincere. But the problem we have in Nigeria, across party line, across regions, across local government areas, across the we have positive supply of quality, patriotic, honest, and dedicated leaders who see leadership in the same eyes as Michael Okpara, with the same eyes as Latif Jokonde, with the same eyes as Desamu Mbakwe. Practically what we have today are higher links who are only after what they will steal, what they will loot, what they will kill, what they will destroy. And that is why we are where we are today. And we as a people are also not insulated. We are complicit because we are practically dissolved ourselves into our ethno-religious cleavages. Everything in Nigeria is seen from the religious and ethnic perspective. Nobody looks at things from the humanity perspective, that every one single Nigerian killed is a destruction of our humanity, irrespective of the race, the ethnicity, the religion, and the color of the person. We all bleed red, and every single life wasted, Muslim or Christian, counts against each and every one of us and totally diminishes our humanity.
All right, I want to bring Mr. Nnaemeka into the conversation as well. Let's still talk a little about insecurity. Mr. Dr. Obiaraeri has expanded on what the ills are regarding insecurity and how our current administration is handling it with kid gloves. I want to talk particularly about the amnesty that is given to terrorists and this non-kinetic approach that the government applies to deal with or to make peace with these people who have, inflicted terror and mayhem on Nigerian citizens. How effective an approach do you think this is and has been? And if it isn't an effective approach, what would you have to say to the government if you had the opportunity to advise them regarding their non-kinetic approach?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we need to be very, very careful when we talk about security and all the apportionment that is associated with it. Nigeria is a very complex country. We must be really, really very careful. I was in the Northeast region for 8 years plus. I was boots on ground. I traveled the length and breadth of the Mandara zones, supported IDPs for years, survived over 13 suicide attacks, lost staff, lost vehicles, lost so many things. I still have my PTSD till tomorrow. I saw soldiers who woke up in the morning, went to provide security for us, and they came back dead. I saw civilians who were just trying to leave, and in the next second, they were dead. I had staff who came in to work, support, and they couldn't go back to their families because they finally died. So this is where I'm coming from, and this is why I said we need to be very careful. Security is a very complex situation. I'm not a security expert. I'm a humanitarian aid worker, and I've done it for more than 15 years. I will be very honest with us. Across the length and breadth of Nigeria, security situation in the Southeast is not the same as security situation in the North Central. It's not the same as security situation in the Northeast. Yes, we can look at many factors militating and pushing the food insecurity in Nigeria. We've looked at security. There are also natural disasters. Don't forget, for 2-3 years running consecutively, we've had issues of flooding. There are floodings destroying farming activities in Nasarawa, destroying farming activities in Kebbi, destroying farming activities in Niger State, destroying farming activities in different parts of the country. So it's not just insecurity that is the issue. So take, for example, a state like Anambra State. They vote heavily on security, but yet the insecurity still pervades. If you go across at least 27 states in Nigeria, each of these states have one form of vigilante services or homegrown security apparatus or thereabout. Many of them also have been armed, yet the insecurity is not abating. So the question is, what is the problem? The issue is that the politicians must tell themselves the truth. Politicians must sit down and create what we've always advocated, elite consensus. When that happens, these insecurities will begin to fizzle out. It's not enough for us to produce papers and what have you. The implementation is not always the same. I've been in this for many years. I've seen documents that look so great, but when you bring it to the field, it is unimplementable. One of the challenges I have with some of the laudable programs that the government have put forward for many years is this idea of handing out cash to people in the name of empowerment. For all I care, that is wastage. I mean, under Buhari's administration, and of course this government, we've received funds from Abacha, supposed Abacha loot, and we fritter these monies away in the name of giving to the poorest of the poor. Whereas those monies could have been used, could have used those monies to create industries that would employ people and create some level of sustainability, around those funds. So there are many proposals that are gathering dust, on government shelves or the multilateral organizations, but the reality is that we've consistently reinforced failure, and that's why we're where we are. If you look at Niger State, for example, the Niger State government, the governor calls himself Farmer Bago because he has chosen farming activity as his, the forefront of his administration. He created a company that, strictly focuses on farming and is empowering smallholder farmers across different local government and wards in the state. It's not a one-day job. It takes time. There used to be serious insecurity in that place, but the farming activities has helped greatly. But the insecurity situation has not abated still. Why? Because you still do not have what we have termed as elite consensus. Until we have, and we are able to gather the elites together, and they're able to understand that until you have a country, you cannot even talk about leadership, because you don't know who will be the next victim. That is why I always say that we need to be careful. Some of the things we, postulate, the ideas might be laudable, beautiful, excellent.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we need to be careful. Yeah.
All right. I wish we had more time to continue this conversation, but I want to say thank you so much. We look forward to have you back again so we can look at the response, because I'm sure the federal government will indeed throw its weight behind this conversation from the United Nations. Thank you, Mr. Nnaemeka, and also Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri for speaking with us this morning, and we wish you a beautiful day ahead. Thank you.